order. Obviously, we don't have a quorum at this point in time. So I am going to turn the gavel over to Senator Brown, and he is going to chair the committee while I present the first two bills.
First, we'll be hearing Senate Bill 927 by Senator Crawford. Please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess I'll leave off the in-committee part for now. Thanks for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 927 today. This actually originated as a true constituent issue. I have an owner of storage units in my district, and many years ago, and I think you'll hear a little bit of the background story from one of the witnesses, but they are only allowed to sell $5,000 worth of content coverage to individuals that rent storage units. He was relaying to me, my constituent, that really isn't enough in a lot of cases, and so all this bill is going to do is raise the $5,000 limit to $15,000. That's all it does. And it obviously won't be required, but it will allow them to offer that maximum coverage if the consumer would like it. Happy to answer questions.
Do I have any questions for the senator? No. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the bill? Please come forward. Be sure to leave a witness form.
Mr. Chairman, Randy Scher, representing the American Self-Storage Association. When we passed this bill in 2016, we sat down with some insurance interests that want to make sure that whoever was taking those documents. Let me back up. This insurance is generally sold at the rental location. The owner of the rental location can get what they wanted, which is a limited line self-service storage insurance producer license. So that's what the whole statute does. And then there was some discussion, well, maybe we need to put a limit on it. And the number 5,000 was thrown out, and that's what was put in the bill. So that's how we got there in 2016. Obviously, since then, what's being stored in some of these units has a value well over $5,000, and the storage units are larger. There's a lot more personal items in there. So we are the only state that has a cap on what that limited lines self-service licensed individual can sell at their location with just a simple document. No other state has that cap. I talked to one of the largest insurance companies yesterday out of Phoenix that covers and sells this through these operators all over the country, and she said that most of these policies are between 10 and 15,000. That's most of them. But she said that there are some that are being sold between 20 and 40,000, to give you some idea of the value of what might be put in those self-storage. So this is a number, obviously, that will get much closer to what some of the values, the maximum values are in those storage units. And again, it's only available to those owner-operators who have that limited license, and that's it. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, that would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Mosley. I'm Kathy Harness, and I'm here today on behalf of the Missouri Self-Storage Owners Association, and we just want to go on record in support of Senate Bill 927 and thank Senator Crawford for her sponsorship.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinos, State Public Advocate. And I'll tell you what, this is a great bill. It should be a bipartisan bill. I don't think that politics or bickering should enter into this equation. This bill makes good sense. There should be insurance for actual needs and value. The needs need to be offered to be comparable with personal belongings in today's true value. The actual replacement value or cost to replace. If you put a pool table may be $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000. It depends on the personal goods, but it can vary. But this is a good consumer protection bill. It's a voluntary issue. This bill's a no-brainer, and hopefully the Senate can see it in its wisdom to pass it as a single subject issue so there's no controversy. If somebody makes it into a controversy, that's a sad day here. This shouldn't be about partisan politics, but this is to protect Missouri consumers. And some people may be between homes, and it could be their entire livelihood. You could have pictures, you could have jewelry, you could have clothing, furniture, a wide variety of household goods, and some may be valuable, some may not. But this is a voluntary program. It makes sense. Let's get it over to the House and onto the governor's desk. Let's not make this a Christmas tree type issue, and let's pass this as a single issue bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the witness? Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Informational purposes only. Senator, any closing remarks?
Just thank you for the opportunity.
All right, that concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 927. Next up, we will be hearing Senate Bill 1348. Senator Crawford, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and member of the committee. For the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28, thanks for the opportunity to hear or be willing to hear Senate Bill 1348. Senate Bill 1348 adds some common sense protections and guardrails around providing insurance documents to the Missouri Department of Commerce and Insurance. Currently, when insurance companies give documents to DCI under a market conduct examination, those documents are given confidential treatment and are not subject to subpoena and may not be public except under certain circumstances. But when the insurance companies give the same documents to DCI under a market conduct investigation, those documents are not do not get that same level of confidentiality. So this is needlessly putting some sensitive information at risk. And I believe the documents should be given the same level of protection, whether it's an examination or an investigation. Currently, in many instances, one of the other things the bill does is currently in many instances, insurance companies are only given 10 days to produce documents to DCI, and this bill would increase the 10 days to 30 days, which would allow them a little more time to gather everything. It's maybe a more reasonable time. The example was given to me that just recently DCI had given a request on December 20th to get some documentation together. Obviously, December 20th is the bad time of the year anyway, but they were going to have to gather lots of documents in a bad time of the year, and we just feel like 30 days is a more reasonable amount. Also, Senate Bill 1348 limits the document requests that go beyond 3 years, such as many of the other records retention requirements that already exist in statutes. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I have some witnesses behind me that can probably be more detailed.
Thank you. Any questions for the senator? And Senator, since we have a quorum, perhaps we want to stop and...
I would love for you to go right ahead and ask for that quorum. Go ahead.
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Trent. Brown.
Here.
Hoskins. Here. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
So, Let's see. No questions for the senator. Would anyone like to testify in favor of the bill? It's, yeah, 1348.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Michael Henderson for the Missouri Insurance Coalition. Want to thank Senator Crawford for sponsoring this bill. Senator Crawford touched a little bit on the difference between market conduct examinations and market conduct investigations. Those are two avenues in which the DCI may investigate insurance companies who may be suspected of violating Missouri law. The unique difference between the two, when the exam process, it's 4.5 pages of statute with additional regulations that spell out to a T the various procedures that will be followed. Those might include the director being required to issue a warrant in which she undersigns for the exam, various timelines in which to respond to requests for information, certain offsets on premium tax for the cost of the examination. When you get into an investigation, you have half a page of statute, and so it's a much less defined area process. And what we've seen, initially we supported as an industry the investigation statute a few years back as a way for the department to look at issues that it wanted to investigate without having to open up a full-blown examination. We think that's a good thing, both for the department and for our companies. That saves precious resources. What we have seen is probably in recent years, 95% of the processes in which we're investigated are conducted under the market conduct investigation process versus the market conduct examination process. And what that really does is it sets us up to be in a position where we don't have well-defined procedural safeguards. One of those differences, as the senator mentioned, was when one of my members hands over insurance documents to the DCI pursuant to a market conduct examination, it is given a very strict level of confidentiality. The DCI more or less cannot share those documents with outside parties except for very, very limited circumstances. That does not exist under the investigation statute. And we think, for whatever reason, and whether there's merits for and against conducting more investigations over examinations, it shouldn't really matter whether we're handing documents over to the DCI pursuant to an examination or pursuant to an investigation. Those documents, which oftentimes contain sensitive information concerning Missouri constituents, should enjoy the same level of protection, whether they're handed over pursuant to an exam or an investigation. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish with the first part of this bill. The second, as the senator mentioned, is moving the time to respond to requests for information from the DCI from 10 days to 30 days. The example, the senator mentioned, I can add, we've had members get a 10-day request the Friday before Thanksgiving for all documents going back to the 1950s. And, that sets up a scenario in which you've got a 3-day week the next week, and those documents are due the following Monday. And in order for that to get processed through a large corporation, it's just difficult. I will give the department credit. We have heard from members that when they ask for an extension of time in which to produce documents, oftentimes that is given. Obviously, with the example, over Thanksgiving, we had another member have the same experience over the new year. That's not always the case. And so we think, providing us with 30 days to respond to a request, not unlike what we have if we have to respond in court, that makes sense. The last one, in terms of the three-year look-back period, we already have in the market conduct examination statute, it requires my companies to retain their insurance policies and claim files for up to 3 years. And so we think, just like statute of limitations, for example, provide a date certain that all parties can abide by, that following some things that are already in state statute, it makes sense to limit that look back period to 3 years, so my companies can rely on that when they're deciding whether to retain documents or not. There is an exception that allows the department to go beyond 3 years if it has reason to believe that the insurance company has committed very serious violations under the law. The intent is not to hide the ball or hide bad acts. It's just put some certainty around how long we have to keep these documents. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions for the witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, they would like to testify in favor of the bill. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Rich Albish on behalf of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, echoing the concerns in support of Missouri Insurance Coalition and Mike Henderson.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Next up, they would like to speak in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ross Lean with the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies would just like to echo what's already been said, and we support the bill.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Next up in support of the bill. Would anyone like to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate, and I will be opposing Senate Bill 1348. In my opinion, this will lead to secrecy and cover-up of investigations. I believe that insurance documents shall be made available to the public for inspection, similar to CaseNet court cases. There needs to be transparency and disclosure from the Department of Commerce and Insurance, and protections of the public. I also don't see where there's adequate penalties if the subpoena or the documents requested aren't complied with. Part 2 of the bill, I do agree with the second part, taking from 10 days for that request of documents to a 30-day request. That makes sense. As the examples that were testified before. I also would like to see an amendment to this bill that the outcome of the investigation with the determination and findings must be disclosed to the public to notify the public of any wrongdoing or errors. I think that should be made a matter of public record, provide for consumer protections, and I think that the public has a right to know what the determination of the director's office with his legal counsel. This bill, in my opinion, will lead to secrets and cover-ups of wrongdoing of the insurance business. I believe that the lobbyists who testified, they're after one thing, and that's to protect their clients and to give them free passes and to do what they wish and violate our state code, our state statutes. This is a bad bill, in my opinion, and I'd like to see Senate Bill 1353 voted down by the committee. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness?
1348.
Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to the bill? Informational purposes. Senator, any closing remarks?
Yes, I'm glad that Arnie brought that up. It's my understanding that the report is made public, so you do know the findings. I believe that's already part of the statutes.
Is it like the Ethics Commission when they do a statement?
Let me get back with you, but the report, the findings report, is made public. And the other thing I wanted to make mention of is I feel like this is more of a consumer protection because it's protecting your consumers' confidential information dealing with their insurance. So I kind of look at it from a different angle, but I did want to make the point that those findings are indeed made public. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1348.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, for taking over for me. Next up, we'll be hearing on Senate Bill 1359. Senator Trent, you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing District 20. I do have a bill that I'm supposed to present in another hearing, so if it's all right with the committee, I'll probably leave after I finish my presentation here in order to get to that other committee. So the bill before the committee is Senate Bill 1359. This deals with the Chapter 380 mutual insurance companies that operate here in Missouri. So generally these are companies that have a great deal of flexibility in how they operate because of the nature of the business that they engage in. These companies write policies that often serve rural areas where neighbors are essentially protecting each other against losses from weather and fire and other kinds of similar disasters. So this bill has a few simple objectives that it seeks to achieve. If you look in Section 3, you can see that this bill would require that a Chapter 380 mutual insurance company would only be regulated and governed by Chapter 380. This is important because the department has at times applied other sections of code to these types of businesses that do not believe was ever contemplated, and so we want to keep this very tidy and keep the regulations that the General Assembly has applied to these companies to be the regulations that are applied to these companies and not other unrelated regulations. Next, in Section 4, you look, there is a clarification on how reinsurance is obtained by Chapter 380 mutuals. Adequate reinsurance is the standard that I believe should be adhered to, and this statute or this bill would define in statute what adequate reinsurance is. Next, in Section 5, the bill would establish process on mutuals who merge together, and what that would mean. So, for a little background, Chapter 380 mutuals do not get purchased. They are typically merged into other companies. They do so by votes of their respective boards, and of course, the boards are with the consent or with the are accountable to their policyholders. And then finally, in Section 6 and 7, the bill sets forth a process for the Department of Insurance and the insurance companies when an audit is being conducted. And this is designed primarily to prevent just sort of an open-ended fishing process that would be unduly financially punitive to the companies, and it uses criteria that I think are very common sense. So if you look there in Section 7, things like the purpose. So prior to commencing an examination, the department has to hold a scheduled conference with a company to disclose and discuss with them the purpose and scope of the examination, the estimated costs, the types of information that the company will be asked to produce, and the most efficient means of conducting the examination, and any alternative approaches in conducting examination that would be more convenient or less burdensome or less expensive for the company, because ultimately when we layer costs and burdens on companies of this nature, who we're actually hurting is the policyholders and the general public. And so I think having a process that is minimally burdensome as possible while still providing the necessary oversight that we want to achieve is what is warranted here, and that's what this bill seeks to accomplish. I would be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Trent. If you need to go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Absolutely. So we will now hear from those wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1359. And while I see you grab that form, I just want to remind everybody that testifies to please fill out a witness form, and you can leave it on the table. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jake Black. I'm President and CEO of CFM Insurance. CFM is the oldest Missouri mutual insurance company and one of the largest operating under the Missouri 380 statutes. We are proud to have over 125,000 insureds in every single county in the state from north to south, east to west. Our company was born in 1867 and formally organized in 1869 as members of the community came together to share each other's risks and pay for losses to property. Excuse me. I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 1359, Protecting Missouri Mutual Insurance Companies Act. Missouri mutual insurance companies are regulated under the Chapter 380 revised statutes, and for over 150 years, Missouri mutuals have served a vital role in providing insurance options to rural and small-town Missourians who may otherwise find insurance unaffordable or simply unavailable. In a period of escalating premiums and declining coverage options, this bill will help protect market choices for families in rural and small towns across Missouri. The purpose of this bill is very simple. It clarifies the authority of the Missouri Department of Commerce and Insurance relating to the Missouri mutuals in the areas of reinsurance requirements, merger hearings of Missouri mutuals, and the transparency of the examination process for the 380 mutuals. It covers three vital areas, as the Senator said, the first being reinsurance. And to remind everyone, after weeks of devastating storms in 2011, including the Joplin tornado, the Missouri Department of Commerce and Insurance enacted a regulation stating that 380 mutuals must carry reinsurance coverage with an unlimited aggregate. Simplified, that requires a mutual to buy $1 of reinsurance for every dollar that they insure under their policies. Unfortunately, given the global economic conditions of the global reinsurance capacity, that has changed significantly. Unlimited aggregates are virtually impossible to buy. In fact, there's only one reinsurance carrier offering an unlimited aggregate to Missouri mutuals on a very limited basis, and a very steep premium increases have been seen for the 24 year. This creates a monopolistic market approach for policyholders, with many mutuals seeing nearly triple-digit percentage increase for their unlimited cover. This bill redefines adequate reinsurance as commercially available reinsurance that can be purchased by the company, and gives the authority back to the company's board of directors, who are elected by their policyholders, to determine what the appropriate needs of reinsurance are for their business. The second area is mergers between mutuals. This by no means takes away any power from the department to oversee any merger that may adversely impact their policyholders. It simply establishes a timeline and requirements for the department to go through the merger process. It's important to remember that the policyholders of each mutual are the owners of the policy, and to approve a merger, they must sign off on each individual merger before it goes to the department. This bill simply clarifies the circumstances and timelines under which the DCI can hold hearings related to mergers that have been approved by the policyholders. It places a simple expectation on the department stating the reason for the hearings to be published in the order, and for the companies to prepare properly for the discussion. Once again, transparency. The third and final item are examinations. Missouri mutuals are subject to periodic financial examinations by the department. To ensure Missouri mutuals remain competitive and viable as insurance options for rural Missourians, this bill clarifies the fees and transparency the DCI can charge for examinations. Requires the department examiners to provide a simple explanation of billed hours that would be the same that you would recognize in the private sector. It also states parameters that will foster a partnership between the mutuals and DCI to allow transparency in the process. and simply establishes an expectation of clear communication with the department to support the billing hours placed on the Missouri mutuals from the government. Again, transparency from the department to the mutuals. This is a very clear and simple piece of legislation that will reaffirm the laws already on the books and in place that have been clouded by regulations. This clarity should aid the 380 Mutual's ability to thrive and continue to serve policyholders throughout the state well into the future. Thank you.
Questions for the witness? Just a clarification. So as far as the reinsurance goes, so basically you're being put in a position to where you're being told that you have to get a certain dollar figure, but that's not even available to you. Is that correct?
That's correct for a majority of the companies.
So real world feasibility doesn't work in this case. Is that kind of what you're getting across at?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. And so DCI, don't hold this against the witness. Hold it against me. Do you have any experience with being given a bill that doesn't disclose what the fees entail?
I do have experience of that with the most recent audit where we were billed for hours with no explanation for the work for those hours.
Do you care to share how many hours that was? If you don't want to answer that, it's okay.
It exceeded 4,000 hours worth of auditing charges from the state.
So you were given a bill for 4,000 hours without any explanation.
We were given a series of bills throughout 13 months that equaled over.
So it just was like so many hours equals so many dollars.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's all I have at this time. Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1359?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Michael Henderson for the Missouri Insurance Coalition in support of this bill. CFM is a very valued member of ours, as are a number of 380 mutual companies and associations related to the mutual companies, most especially with the reinsurance issue. We've heard issues probably going back a couple years about the unavailability of the required reinsurance, and I think that's a problem that's not unique to Missouri. Illinois, I believe, passed legislation last year to remove its unlimited aggregate. I know a number of other states are looking at addressing that issue as well, Iowa being one of them. In terms of the other issues, Mr. Black did a great job of laying those out, and we support our member on those portions of the bill as well. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ross Lean with the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies in favor of this bill, and really just echoing what's already been said specifically about the unlimited aggregate requirement. Worth noting, previous witness mentioned that Illinois last year passed a bill to remove their requirement, so then there are now only 4 states that require this unlimited aggregate reinsurance: Missouri, Wisconsin, New York, and Iowa. And I know that Iowa and Wisconsin are both looking at making changes to it. So Missouri is in line with states that are looking to go away with this.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor. Seeing none, anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 1359?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate, and I am opposed to Senate Bill 1359. It takes, in my opinion, this bill takes away protections from consumers and vastly favors the insurance industry. Reinsurance and relicensing is of major concern here. This could lead to picking winners and losers in this field. I don't appreciate the department having now the statutory ability to waive rules, policies, and requirements. in my opinion, by changing this law and this code will have bad actors and bad apples into this industry without any penalties or reasons to suspend their license. It's kind of giving them a free pass to operate as they would. This bill, just doesn't make any sense, and so I am opposed to it. I believe that we need to put Missourians first over the insurance industry.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next up in opposition to Senate Bill 1359. Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 1359? Seeing none, this will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 1359. As you can tell, we do not have a quorum, so we will not have an executive session today. I make a motion we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.